In the realm of culinary delights, there exists a mysterious veil shrouding the origins and preparation methods of certain foods. Behind the allure of their taste and convenience lies a hidden narrative that, if exposed, might deter even the most adventurous of eaters. These are the culinary creations that, if unveiled in their entirety, could prompt a collective gasp of disbelief from consumers. Number 1. Artificial sweeteners. When most people think of foods with artificial sweeteners, diet drinks and candies are what come to mind. But a close look at ingredients lists shows they're in more and more products. Low-calorie sweeteners are being introduced widely into the diet. They're found in many products, such as high-fiber oatmeal or English muffins, even those not labeled as diet or light. Most artificial sweeteners are more accurately called non-nutritive sweeteners because they provide no or very few calories and no nutrients. The latter two are often considered natural because they originally come from plants, but they're highly processed in a lab. Aspartame is technically a nutritive sweetener, though it can be used in very small amounts because it is 200 times sweeter than sugar. The Food and Drug Administration has approved the use of these sweeteners using results from toxicity studies in people and animals and set acceptable daily intake levels for all but monk fruit and stevia. Research suggests that amounts of NNS below the ADIs may have adverse effects on health, including an increased risk for type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cancer, and heart disease. Number 2. Conventionally grown strawberries. Strawberries are a popular fruit that can be grown using organic or conventional farming methods. Fresh organic strawberries are grown without synthetic pesticides, genetically modified organisms, or chemical fertilizers. On the other hand, conventionally grown strawberries may use synthetic pesticides, GMOs, and chemical fertilizers to maximize crop yield and reduce pest damage. Using synthetic pesticides in conventional farming can lead to contaminated food of water sources, soil, and wildlife, posing risks to both human health and ecosystems. Intensive tillage and monoculture cropping systems commonly used in conventional farming can lead to soil degradation, reducing soil fertility and productivity over time. The use of synthetic pesticides can harm non-target organisms, disrupting ecosystems and reducing biodiversity. The production and use of synthetic fertilizers in conventional farming contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, contributing to climate change. Number 3. Corn syrup. Corn syrup is one of those ingredients we are told not to eat because it's unhealthy. But do we still eat foods with it? Probably every single time. Corn syrup is produced from cornstarch and is the base for high fructose corn syrup, which is thought to cause obesity and other major health problems. Although corn syrup is widely recognized as being unhealthy for you, many people don't know how the controversial sweetener is made. To make corn syrup, there are two main steps: separating cornstarch from corn and converting cornstarch into corn syrup. Separating cornstarch from corn isn't as easy as you would think. First, corn kernels that pass inspection are softened by putting to mix of water and sulfur dioxide. The process of creating corn syrup is called acid hydrolysis. Wet starch is mixed with a weak solution of hydrochloric acid and then heated under pressure. Sugar is created by the heat and the hydrochloric acid breaking down the starch molecules. Stopping this process at different points creates various levels of sweetness. The longer you allow the hydrolysis process, the sweeter the corn syrup will be. And that, my friends, is how you make corn syrup. I don't know about you, but the thought of eating something that was produced with multiple acid products freaks me out. Number 4. Factory farmed eggs. On factory farms, where the vast majority of the global egg supply comes from, eggs are produced by subjecting female chickens, known as laying hens, to unbelievable acts of cruelty. Thousands of birds are crammed together, often in filthy, darkened places where the birds have almost no ability to engage in natural behaviors. Meanwhile, their bodies are pushed to produce as many eggs as possible, almost one a day. Compare that to a wild chicken, who would naturally lay close to 12 eggs in 1 year, and you're confronted with a nearly 3,000% increase in egg production, 3,000% more than what is natural for a living, breathing hen. At the end of their abbreviated lives, hens are sent to the slaughterhouse, where they're destined to become cheap meat via a brutal process known as live shackle slaughter. Number 5. Packaged fruit snacks. A fruit snack is a type of gummy snack made with fruit flavoring and natural gelatin. They were first made by confectioner Louis Chalhoub in the 1970s as a lightweight, high-energy snack food for backpackers. Although they are marketed as a healthier alternative to regular gummy candies, this is sometimes considered false advertising, since they contain fruit flavoring instead of actual fruit and the high added sugar content, more comparable to a typical candy. More than half the weight of the fruit snacks is simple sugars. They also contain an average of 12% water by weight, 25% starch, a small amount of fat, and a negligible amount of protein. Number 6. Food colorings. Artificial food coloring is one of the most controversial ingredients widely used in American food products, including snacks, drinks, candy, and even vitamins. While proof that food dyes cause cancer or certain child behaviors is generally inconclusive, you might wonder what these colorings are made of and how that contributes to their bad rap. Most food colorings in the U.S. are derived from petroleum, though the FDA requires vigorous testing and batch certification to ensure no traces of petroleum remain in the final product. The finished colorings wind up as some mixture of carbon, hydrogen, iodine, oxygen, sodium, and sulfur, all of which are common in natural foods and safe to consume in small amounts. Number 7. Pre-packaged salads. In our never-ending search for foods that are both healthy and convenient, salad kits, pre-made salad bowls, bags of washed and pre-sliced romaine and clamshells of fresh baby greens offer the best of both worlds. Fresh leafy greens are packed with nutrients, and the words pre-washed or triple washed get a thumbs up from us. Well, for the most part. According to food-safety and -u.com, leafy greens are the riskiest food that you can eat in terms of food safety. This seems a bit harsh, and it's important to point out right away that the potential dangers are minimal. While it's true that leafy greens are associated with a high number of food poisoning outbreaks in comparison to other types of foods, the lettuce itself isn't inherently dangerous and the risk of food poisoning is slim. Here's what you need to know, and what you can do to get your salad on safely. When you're washing lettuce yourself at home, you can separate the leaves with your fingers and look at it, examining every leaf as you swoosh it around in cool water or run it under the faucet. This may come as a surprise to some of you, but believe it or not, the commercial machinery used to wash your bagged lettuce isn't nearly as fine-tuned, attentive, or delicate as you are. Shocking, I know. Number 8. Imitation crab. You've probably eaten your fair share of imitation crab meat, whether you realize it or not. Over the last few decades, this fishy imposter has greedily taken over many of our otherwise favorite foods. Dishes like crab cakes, sushi rolls, and the ever-popular deep-fried crab rangoon can no longer be trusted to contain our pinchy little ocean friends. Instead, these foods are most likely infused with surimi, an ocean imposter masquerading as a crab. After the fish is minced and pressed into a paste, surimi, it is heated, blended with fillers, heated again, and then pressed into shapes that just ever so slightly resemble authentic crab meat, if you squint. These pieces are then vacuum-sealed and pasteurized before being shipped off to their respective buyers and distributors. Number 9. Canned vegetables. Canned vegetables are a convenient, effective way of preserving vegetables for consumption when they are not readily available. Canned vegetables are full of essential nutrients, and in some cases, the nutrients are more readily digestible than in the fresh equivalent. Most vegetables have naturally relatively high pH and thus fall into the low-acid group of foods. They therefore require a full sterilization treatment unless they are acidified. The kinds of microorganisms that can be found associated with most vegetables can cause food poisoning or thermophilic spoilage, and therefore it is very important that the sterilization processes are well designed and carefully controlled. Most canned vegetable brines are prepared with 1 to 2% salt. For some products, like peas and corn, a sweetener is also added. Number 10. Commercial white bread. It might be the stuff of childhood Wonder Bread and PB&J sandwiches, but you should absolutely resist the urge to reach for the white bread. While you might have heard that nutritionally it's about the worst option out there, there's more to it than that. Did you know, for example, that a white bread habit might be to blame for migraines?
No?
That's why I'm here. A report from Intech Open examined the additives and preservatives used in commercial bread making. It's shocking stuff. There are oxidants and reductants to help strengthen the dough, make it rise more efficiently, and to help encourage the development of gluten. Then there are emulsifiers and a class of ingredients called hydrocolloids that also impact things like gluten development and crumb size. which goes on to affect the texture of the bread. That's not even getting into the preservatives that help extend shelf life. If you opt for baking your own white bread at home, however, the ingredients are much simpler: water, salt, yeast, and flour. That's it. Number 11. Foie gras. Bans on foie gras are in effect in a number of areas due to the often unethical production methods used by many foie gras farmers. Typically, foie gras is made from the livers of a few specific breeds of ducks and geese. Some farms begin a preliminary fattening stage when birds are 4 weeks old. Ducks and geese are fed a diet high in protein and starch to make them grow out faster. When birds reach 8 to 10 weeks old, force feeding, or gavage, begins. This usually involves inserting a plastic or metal tube down a bird's throat to make the bird consume large amounts of food. Birds are force-fed a few times a day during the 2 to 4 weeks leading up to their slaughter. Some farms do take this process too far, force-feeding birds until they become so overweight that they can't walk or live a normal life. Having a tube down your throat sounds uncomfortable to most humans, but it's actually not a problem for ducks and geese. Because their respiratory and digestive systems are completely separate, a tube in a bird's throat doesn't prevent it from breathing normally. Number 12. Farmed shrimp. Shrimp is the most popular seafood in the United States, but here's an unsettling fact that might keep you from ordering your next shrimp cocktail. 90% of the shrimp we eat has been imported, but less than 2% of that gets inspected by U.S. regulatory agencies. What's the big deal? Imported shrimp, more than any other seafood, has been found to be contaminated with banned chemicals, pesticides, and even cockroaches, and it skirts food safety authorities only to wind up on your plate. The number one reason for all that: the dirty conditions in which farmed shrimp are raised. Previous tests have found penicillin, an antibiotic that, while legal, could trigger allergic reactions in unsuspecting shrimp lovers. Imported farmed shrimp comes with a whole bevy of contaminants: antibiotics, residues from chemicals used to clean pens, filth like mouse hair, rat hair, and pieces of insects. Shrimp farmers have to destroy native mangrove forests that provide a buffer against hurricanes and flooding. Scientists from the U.S. Department of Agriculture have found that mangrove forests absorb and trap more climate-changing carbon dioxide than any other ecosystem on the planet, including rainforests. Number 13. Soda. The process of making soda can sometimes be viewed as unpleasant, particularly when you consider some of the ingredients and processes involved. Here's a basic overview. Carbonated sodas are infused with carbon dioxide gas under pressure to create the fizziness. This process itself isn't inherently disgusting, but it's the other ingredients and methods that can raise eyebrows. Many sodas are sweetened with HFCS, which is made from corn starch. The process involves enzymatic conversion of glucose in corn syrup to fructose, making it sweeter. Critics argue that excessive consumption of HFCS can contribute to health issues like obesity and diabetes. Sodas often contain artificial flavorings and colors to mimic the taste and appearance of fruits. Some of these additives have been linked to health concerns when consumed in large quantities. To prolong shelf life, sodas may contain preservatives like potassium benzoate or sodium benzoate. While generally recognized as safe by regulatory bodies, some studies suggest they may have negative health effects when combined with certain additives or exposure to heat and light. Many sodas contain caffeine, a stimulant that can be addictive and may cause adverse health effects if consumed excessively. Additionally, the source of caffeine in some sodas is not always clear and could include synthetic forms. The actual manufacturing process of soda involves mixing these ingredients in large vats, often in facilities that handle massive quantities of product. Number 14. Margarine. Whether one is talking about butter or margarine, the basic concept is consistent. The goal is a water and fat mixture composed of at least 80% fat that is solid at or near room temperature. The source of these fats can be dairy products, animal fats, or various vegetable oils. Emulsifiers are added to margarine to help stabilize the mixture of water and oil. Common emulsifiers used in margarine production include lecithin, mono, and diglycerides, and polysorbates. While generally recognized as safe, some people may be concerned about the use of these additives in food products. To enhance the taste and appearance of margarine, artificial flavorings and colorings may be added. These can include synthetic compounds designed to mimic the taste and appearance of butter. Like many processed foods, margarine often contains preservatives to extend its shelf life. These can include additives such as potassium sorbate or citric acid. Margarine production typically involves large-scale industrial processes where the ingredients are mixed, heated, and cooled to achieve the desired consistency. Some people may find the idea of mass-produced, heavily processed foods unappealing. Number 15. Marshmallows. There are plenty of childhood favorites we outgrow, but you're never, ever too old for marshmallows. How do they make those heavenly little marshmallow treats? Anyway, what are we really eating? Strangely, it's a tale that's centuries in the making. You have your sugar, corn syrup, modified cornstarch, and gelatin. And air is so important to the process that we're going to call it an ingredient too. You can't have that pillowy texture without it, after all. Most of the ingredients in marshmallows are pretty well known, and then there's gelatin. Gelatin is incredibly important to the process because it's what gives marshmallows that fluffy, elastic, squishy texture. Food scientists say that when all the ingredients are whipped together, gelatin essentially acts to bind liquid into the mixture. It acts to extend the shelf life of the product. Marshmallows can kick around in the cabinet for up to 24 months and still be perfectly fine. So, what is gelatin? Here's where things get yucky. According to Healthline, it's made by cooking collagen, which is the connective tissue found in things like bones, ligaments, and skin. Those are generally the parts of an animal that we don't eat. So instead of going to waste, those parts are boiled to make gelatin. Number 16. Canned meat. When you think of canned meat, it doesn't conjure up the most beautiful mental image. But like all canned foods, canned meat is an affordable way to have shelf-stable ingredients on hand. It's compact, making it easy to keep a lot in your cupboard. It also takes less time to prepare, since canned meat is pre-cooked and stored at room temperature, meaning it doesn't require time to thaw or cook. Certain risks come with enjoying canned meats. As Healthline reports, the most common issue is that canned meats contain higher levels of salt and preservatives than their uncanned counterparts. Additionally, these foods may contain trace amounts of BPA, a chemical sometimes linked to health issues such as heart disease. In extremely rare cases, canned meat may contain the bacteria Clostridium botulinum. You're more likely to get botulism from canned meat that's been packaged at home or comes from a damaged or dented container. Finally, some canned meats simply look, taste, and smell worse than the fresh alternatives. Number 17. Instant noodles. A combination of three things led to the invention of instant noodles. First, a starving Japanese population post-World War II. Second, the Japanese government's quest to use up rations of wheat flour and oil supplied by U.S. aid. Lastly, Momofuku Ando, a recently unsuccessful businessman looking to rebuild his life. The production process of instant noodles has not changed much since its invention. Instant cooking cup noodles and a method of producing the same. The ingredients are mixed, the dough is rolled out, cut into noodles, steamed, dried, fried for a minute or two for dehydration, cooled, and then packed into individual units. Instant noodles are cheap, require minimal utilities and time to prepare, and each portion provides between 300 to 500 calories. This makes them an appealing source of nourishment for people with limited resources and time. However, there are some nutrition concerns to take into consideration when eating them on a regular basis. Instant noodles by themselves are an incomplete meal because they lack sufficient quantities of proteins, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So, in conclusion, it is okay to eat instant noodles once in a while. Just don't forget to supplement them with other nutritious foods like veggies, eggs, and meat. Number 18. Processed cheese. Processed cheese still contains cheese, but also contains several other ingredients that aren't allowed in cheese. Let's have a closer look at what these are and how they give processed cheese its special properties. Processed cheese starts its life as regular cheese, which is made by curdling animal milk. To transform this cheese into processed cheese, they are blended together with a few other ingredients. Emulsifying salts are crucial in this process. Aside from cheese and emulsifying salts, manufacturers may also add several other ingredients to achieve the desired consistency. Processed cheese typically contains a high amount of sodium, which is added for flavor and as a preservative. Excessive sodium intake has been linked to various health issues, including high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. It often contains artificial ingredients such as emulsifiers, stabilizers, and preservatives. These additives help give processed cheese its smooth texture and extended shelf life, but may have negative health effects when consumed in large quantities. Compared to natural cheese, processed cheese tends to be lower in nutrients. Natural cheese is a good source of protein, calcium, and other vitamins and minerals, whereas processed cheese may have fewer nutritional benefits due to the addition of fillers and preservatives. Number 19. Hot dogs. There's a reason we don't want to know how hot dogs are made, or what hot dogs are made of. The truth is, though, hot dogs are delicious. We will say that the hot dog making process does get high marks for sustainability, using parts of the many animals that would otherwise go to waste. Scraps and trimmings from beef, pork, and chicken are ground and combined to create a mostly waste-free food. That's a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, the beauty stops there. Once the ground meat is combined, processed chicken trimmings, we dare not ask, are added along with starches and seasonings. Give the mix a gargantuan churning with industrial-sized wheels, slosh in some water, and a shocking amount of corn syrup. Number 20. Chicken nuggets. With their golden fried batter, chicken nuggets may look appealing on the outside, but what's on the inside is far more disturbing. One study found that chicken nuggets contained more fat than meat, along with bone, nerve, and connective tissue. Chicken nuggets are made by exploiting these birds, confining them in nearly unlivable conditions and subjecting them to extreme suffering. Broiler chickens are chickens born and raised specifically for meat production, kept in huge sheds designed to confine tens of thousands of birds at a time. Broiler sheds typically do not allow birds any access to the outdoors, or even windows to allow natural sunlight to filter through. Instead, birds live under artificial lighting and in such crowded spaces that it's hard for them to get proper exercise or rest. Broiler chickens are slaughtered when they're around just 47 days old. Compared with their natural lifespans of 5 to 12 years, it's clear that the chickens who are killed for nuggets are essentially toddlers.